Continues with Vegito in a positively confused state, still as a Super Saiyan, staring at the strange new masked man before him. The same man who had just proclaimed himself as the second of the 5 strongest. But with crumbling and smushing of the chocolate bar that is Gotenks, the warrior's foot would move off, leaving the creepy masked fellow then to let out an apology. "Sorry about ruining your little treat, friend. That was your offspring that I just clumsily stepped on, wasn't it? How thoughtless of me. Though I'm sure Cronoa won't mind losing 2 weaklings like that." Trunks! Goten! But soon a feeling of shocking realization comes over Vegito, as he figures out finally that with that crushing stomp, so too did he lose his sons once more, again, to the hands of a god. What have you done? As instantly Vegito, enraged, powers up immediately to his Super Saiyan 3 form, and quickly follows up, "You'll pay for that, scum!" Rushing in at Madara with conviction and pure anger in his heart, with the blade in destruction in his right hand, ready to slice through the enemy before him. Far too slow. But instantly, and I mean in the splittest of seconds, out of nowhere, Madara pulls out a sword of his own, a katana which slices through the air like nothing and immediately sends Madara's body moving straight forward a few feet, as if moving on a conveyor belt. But behind him is the real shocker, as flying through the air above a headless and spurting bloody body is the decapitated shocked head of Ultra Vegito, soaring through the air helplessly as in one fell swoop the God Killer is eliminated. And in his final sounds before death, Vegito's now pupilless eye face just makes incoherent sounds as his furiously leaking skull just slowly flies through the sky. While Madara, quickly from a view behind, shows himself now beginning to sheathe back his katana, having done his job. All the while, the now energyless body of Vegito drops its blade and soon begins dropping to the ground itself. And with a sadistic look on his unmoving mask, Madara would then, with a painted smirk, just say, My, I am not the one to be attacking without doing your research, my silly friend. That was an unfortunate mistake to have made." Before eventually, as his katana finally clinks into place, just as perfectly timed, so too does Vegito's lifeless head finally slammed in the ground, and instantly also revert back to base in the process. And immediately following this, as if totally disappointed in what had just happened, Madara slams his palm onto his mask and lets out, "Seems just like I thought. That damn priest was overreacting. To disturb me of all people for something as lowly as this? This creature, the so-called God Killer, defeated before I even had the chance to break a sweat. Seems like the gap between the gods of this realm and the beings of the beyond have just gotten wider and wider. All you fools needed to do was anger this brute and wait for his comically telegraphed attack. Guts. Did you really lose to this scum? And to think you had the audacity to believe you could become the strongest of the 5 one day. Once a dreamer, always one. Madara would then turn his body to look at his victim, and continue. So now what do? I did say to bring him in alive if possible, but I guess that's out of the question now. Does he really expect me to bring in a bloody corpse instead? For what reason? A mortal shouldn't even be stepping foot into the land of the divine anyway. But as his sights see the whole picture of Vegito's headless body, he notices too the giant sword that is also directly next to him, and then comments, there is that, isn't there? Guts' blade of destruction, with a demon emperor within that. As lazy as I am, it probably wouldn't be a good idea to leave that behind. I'll take that back instead. Surely a heck of a lot more valuable than this Saiyan trash. And so Madara would then slowly and nonchalantly begin walking towards the decrepit body of Vegito, aiming to retrieve the blade that was formerly owned by the first. As he looks down though, he can't help but think, this blade lost its value 1,000-fold the minute it began being wielded by such a weakling. Guts, you managed to defeat and seal one of the legendary emperors of the demon realm, albeit one of the weakest ones. Yet, you couldn't defeat this thing? What a disgrace you've put upon the Five. I'm glad I at least restored a portion of our honor. Before then reaching his hand out, without a worry, in sight, towards the blade of destruction. Almost as if being a member of the Five itself gained him all the rights to its usage. But just as Madara approaches, the unthinkable begins to happen, even surprising the being who had lived for far longer than even the gods themselves. Why, you sneaky! As out of nowhere, moving on its own volition, the blade of destruction suddenly swipes forward, clearly aiming straight for the head of Madara. But on its second powerful swipe, Madara this time is quick to pull back out his own katana and block the massive blade despite the difference in size, as he laughs. What a bizarre turn of events. Seems traveling here wasn't a complete waste of time. Eventually pushing the blade back as Madara too jumps back to gain some distance. For a minute, he watches on in silence, observing what the sword is even doing, before commenting, I know what this could be. The demon locked within. Perhaps the seed is weakening. This might just be its attempt at escaping. If that happens, this will turn into a completely different chapter. But as Madara thinks, the blade soon travels on its own accord away from the second, and suddenly is grabbed by a mysterious yet familiar hand without a sound coming from its supposed assailant. And shockingly, standing there inexplicably on its own, is the headless body of Vegito, upright and still spurting blood from the various jugular veins, gripping onto the blade tightly, while above, the very head of the God Killer moves slowly towards the decapitated neck, as if held together by puppet strings. Until eventually, Vegito's deceased head begins leaking pink fluid into the cavity of his body, before attaching and then slowly turning around 180 degrees, as if now a zombie, leaving the head finally with its eyes closed and completely silent until... guess who's back? With a vicious smile and veins protruding all over his face as his blood circulation returns, Vegito would then return to the living world. Unkillable now, with the power of Majin Buu within him. Huh? And though Madara would stand confused, Vegito right in front of him would remain sword in hand and stare him down, letting out, "Well, well, well. Fancy meeting you here again. You got me good with that last attack. But I hope you know, I only let you kill me to test out the abilities of Buu." Piquing the interest and curiosity of Madara, as he thinks to himself, the abilities of Buu? What in the name of Zeno could he possibly mean? This is a curious state of affairs though. I was told the God Killer was just a mere mortal, one from a warrior race of evolved primates, known as the Saiyans. But if my eyes do not deceive me, this scum just cheated death. Am I fighting an immortal? Huh, wouldn't be the first time. But the still thoroughly pleased with himself Vegito, now wiping away the blood from his chin, would then say, "I don't know what you're muttering to yourself over there, Mr. Second of the Five, but I'm oh so glad you showed yourself finally. You know, I was starting to wonder just how I was going to run into one of you clowns again. I mean, I don't even have a single idea about what you guys look like, let alone what universe. So I don't think my staff would have been any help. But now you're here, I gotta say, you're a whole lot smaller and weaker looking than Guts. Are you sure your energy's gonna be even somewhat comparable?" How funny. But in response, almost as if uncontrollable, Madara just bursts out into an eccentric laugh as he looks to the God Killer from the side of his eye and says, "Smaller, I'll give you that. I just don't need such cumbersome muscles to wield my blade. But weaker? What an odd thing to say, considering Guts was once my student." You taught Guts? Instantly leaving Vegito in a state of shock, as his earlier underestimations are all proven wrong. That is until... Perfect! With a horrid, demon-like look, with his grin widening to inhuman size and length, Vegeta would yell in excitement, "So you will be an even greater challenge for me then, and in turn, an even greater feast! Oh my, I can only imagine what your energy will taste like. I'm tired of these filthy gods and angels! Feed me it now!" Causing Vegito to then roar thunderously as his body bulks up even larger than ever before and he reaches his max power level, yelling as loud as he can as energy and aura overflows from his body along with the crumbling rocks of the planet, all being broken apart by the ravaging signature black lightning that accompanies him. As Madara stands before it, he, just as Vegito said, begins to look smaller and smaller, even to us. And that kind of power is no joke even to the second, as the pure pressure and wind force being generated by Vegito's power-up causes even him to cover his masked face, as he peers at the shocking sight through one eye. But deep within the thoughts of the second, something comes to mind as he thinks, oh dearie me. So this is what the Grand Priest was so alarmed about. This is the power of the God Killer. What a surprise. This does indeed far surpass the energies of those minor gods and angels. Dare I say, this energy seems to even surpass Guts by some margin. In fact, it seems familiar in nature. But why? Does this have something to do with why this animal keeps spouting about tasting my energy? This time it'll be your head that falls, Madara! Immediately leading to Vegito rushing in with vengeance and bloodlust, straight for Madara, with his giant sword lifted ready to swing with far more vigor than ever before. And not one to shy away, Madara just remains in place, moving into a defensive position with his katana immediately drawn, and through his still smirking mask would say, straightforward telegraphed attacks once again? You mortal types never seem to learn your lessons, do you? And instantly, their two swords clash with overwhelming power. Madara's speed being matched finally, now by Vegito in his max power form, with even Madara noting, oh, so this is going to go a little different, is it? While the vigorously trying Vegito will just flex his muscles, giving it literally everything he has to push back against Madara's swing, thinking to himself, this little twerp, why does it feel like his blade swings packs far more of a punch than even Guts? I'm giving it my all here, but I suppose I wouldn't even know if he is too, with that damn mask covering his face. Eventually allowing Madara to momentarily overpower Vegito and swing his blade through, while Vegito quickly moves back. This of course not being unnoticed by Madara, who comments, oh, so the primitive ape knows not to just attack? I applaud your attempt at movement, ape boy. But you are not getting away from me that easily! Damn it! And immediately, Madara pulls back and swings his blade once again, straight onto Vegito, who defends narrowly with the Blade of Destruction. His teeth gritted and his body covered in electricity as it becomes more and more obvious just how out of his depth he seems to be in this sword battle. I haven't got all day for you to just be blocking, God Killer. And with the second's patience running out with Vegito's defensive mindset, the second immediately perfectly transitions to a vicious kick that moves Vegito's blade instantly. What the? Taking the God Killer by surprise, as in his rookie state as a swordsman, he completely had been unaware that that had even been an option. No, I'm open! And when the scene zooms out, the effect of the kick is seen, as Vegito's Blade of Destruction is moved all the way to his right by force, even scraping along the ground, while Madara remains in perfect flight and in perfect stead to slice down at any moment. But despite the obvious route for attack, Madara adds even more of an edge up his sleeve, as he soon appears right behind Vegito in his blind spot and giggles. Remember, God Killer, it is only you who makes predictable moves. What? Slicing down from behind, but luckily for our hero, into thin air. as somehow, in the nick of time, Vegito just barely manages to escape via instant transmission, immediately reappearing once again some distance away, as Madara remains ready to attack at any moment. The brief skirmish doesn't leave Vegito with a positive taste in his mouth though, as he angrily then contemplates, "This is just as pointless as when I fought Guts! I'm totally outclassed when it comes to fighting blade to blade. Maybe if I'd eaten Trunks when I had the chance, this would have been more even. But right now, I need a way to make things fair." Straight away following these thoughts up with slamming his sword back into the planet's surface, leaving himself now unarmed as he quickly then swings his left arm to the side, not uttering a word, but his right arm bent out in front, as if in a new fighting stance. Now what? Which temporarily leaves the still moving forward Madara to briefly wonder what the God Killer was even thinking, as he says, "Now he wants to fight me bare-handed? This fool must have forgotten already just how deadly this blade of mine is. I guess better your fingers than mine, friend." But as Madara reaches closer, Vegito vanishes quickly once again, this time leaving his blade behind. Confusing Madara as he wonders, leaving his weapon unattended? Does he have any idea what that thing is worth? Perhaps the coward finally realized just how pointless battling me really was. "Not a chance, clown face! What?" As out of nowhere, Vegito reappears, but this time right behind the second, as his arms bulge and become raucous in veins as they immediately grab onto and clench hard on the neck and body of Madara, trapping him and immobilizing use of both of his arms too. But though we cannot see Madara's true expression, through his voice we can tell he's almost unbothered as he inquires, "Nice move, mortal. But what do you intend to do with your hands tied like this? You should know, it's only a matter of time before I break free of this pathetic grip and slice you in half." But Vegito in response just opens his eyes wide, as one of his mysterious final form techniques then activates. "Huh? Is that..." As in a shock twist, instead of summoning the power of the angels or gods that he had just devoured, he instead summons a one-to-one copy of himself that leaves the second lost for words. As with a sinister look of confidence, as if his plan was now in full effect, Vegito raises his hand behind him, pointed directly towards the Blade of Destruction, while saying, "Oh, don't worry. Someone's getting sliced in half, alright. But don't count on it being me!" As suddenly at the end of Vegito's sentence, the Blade of Destruction begins to tremble and vibrate with the very planet, before exploding outwards out of the ground that sheathed it, and rapidly moving at speed straight towards the outstretched hand of Vegito, as if a magnet attracted to a polar center. And just like that, with even more obedience than ever with Guts, the Blade of Destruction returns to its new owner's hand, the God Killer. And with the blade now with the second Vegito, the apparition screams, "Now! Let us see how you come back from being sliced up, Madara! Somehow, I don't think you'll be able to do the same things I could." Wait! Leaving the previously calm and collected member of the 5 strongest, now for the first time showing a bona fide hint of fear, even through his unmoving mask. As without a shred of mercy, Ultra Vegito's clone follows through without any hesitation, and with a dastardly smirk on his mug, he lets out, "Looks like you weren't much more of a challenge than Guts, after all. Consider the master now surpassed." As the son Madara seemingly then remains motionless as his own katana falls from his very hand. And as we finally see the damage from Vegito's attack, the aftermath is just as the God Killer expected, as the second of the 5 strongest, now most likely already on the cusp of death, separates in half slowly as his entire body splits in 2. All the while the smirking Vegito would just laugh looking at him. "What's wrong, kiddo? Can't you reattach and regenerate too? So much for looking down on us mortals, you divine weakling!" Before then beginning to loosen his grip as his arms extend forward, and he continues, "I better hurry up and take this fool's energy now, before he completely dies. Oh, I can't wait. Power and energy that will be even better than Guts? Count me in." Wait, what? But suddenly, in classic Dragon Ball fashion, things do not go just as the God Killer planned, as suddenly a look of pure shock and bewilderment comes over Vegito. But why? What is this? As suddenly in a shocking sight, as if some form of clone, the once split clean and half body of Madara immediately breaks into a fury of black, screaming ravens that burst out and fly all over the surrounding area in panic, leaving the completely astounded God Killer just muttering, "What the hell? What did he just do? His energy, it's gone! He was here. I felt him. This was definitely the real him! What kind of dumb magic trick is this? Where are you?" Eventually causing Vegeta to quickly turn around in annoyance, ready to annihilate his victim once more until... Just as he turns around, levitating in the air, uncomfortably close, and face to face with Vegito, staring him in the eyes, is now a whole Madara, who whispers, "Yes, Vegito, just like that. Look deeply into my eyes. Eyes of Izuna!" And suddenly, within the mask of Madara, his widened eyes completely change, as his right eye takes on a strange but haunting pattern, leaving the God Killer, for some strange reason now, completely paralyzed, and stands still as if having just seen the fright of his life. But eventually, once Vegito comes back to his senses, he no longer seems to be in the same place. Now surrounded in what seems like complete darkness, Vegito's eyes immediately begin to dart around to figure out where he is or what has happened to him, as he thinks, "What the hell is going on here? One minute that clown was right in front of me, and the next I'm here. Did he kill me or something? Or worse, erase me? It feels like he pulled a Bubbity and moved me to an entirely different dimension." And with nothing else to do, he begins walking slowly and cautiously through the void of pitch-black darkness until... Hey look guys, it's him! He's back! A voice suddenly calls from the distance, one that seems friendly, leading to Vegito to slowly turn around and... What the... This can't be real! But what the God Killer sees puts him in even more of a shock and awe state than previously, as his body freezes in the instant, unable to contemplate what is stood before him. Hey, come over! As unbelievably in the most unexpected sight, the Z Fighters of Earth are seen once again, fully healthy, smiling with open arms to Vegito, Krillin, Piccolo, Yamcha, Tien, Gohan, and even Chi-Chi and Bulma. Oh, you guys! But instantly as Vegito's eyes dart around noticing everyone, tears of sadness, happiness, and confusion can't help but uncontrollably stream down the cheeks of the God Killer, as he whispers, "How is this all possible? You're all back! You're all alive! Are these all members of the Time Patrol too or something?" Remembering, of course, how he just recently saw Goten and Trunks. Hey! But as Vegito cries, a familiar hand eventually grabs onto him from the side. Strange, because Gohan was just in front of him. But Gohan with a smile would then say, as if able to hear even Vegito's whispers, "Haha, no Dad, Time Patrol? What even is that? It's us, Dad, just the way you left us. We're all together again. Come here." And just like that, Vegito for the first time in over 10 years would hug his firstborn son, Gohan, once again. The two emotionally embracing each other, while Vegito remains in a state of disbelief, just muttering, "Gohan, it is you! It really is!" Hey! Don't forget about us, Dad! But as the two hug it out, in a distance, two very familiar young kids call out to the God Killer too. "Dad! You're back!" As of course, they are then revealed to be Goten and Trunks, just as they were before they were erased, smiling and full of excitement at seeing their would-be dad again after all this time. Oh! But as Vegito looks on, he once again cannot believe what he is seeing, as he thinks, "Goten! Trunks! They're back! And they look the same!" "Haha, of course we do, Dad! We were brought back from the moment we died. This time with the duo of kids actually somehow reading Vegito's thoughts." And in the end, as Gohan lets go with a smile, the two younger Saiyans would run and grab onto their father with pure giddiness, as Vegito just remains gobsmacked. But soon, with the sight of his actual youngest son in front of his eyes, the discrepancies in age and any logic in his mind are tossed out of the window, as with a smile, he speaks to his son. "Goten, when will you ever grow up a little, huh? I think I may need to take you two to see a doctor." "That doctor can wait, Goku. What about us?" As yet again, mysterious voices are heard that are revealed to be Chi-Chi and Bulma, looking as youthful as ever. "You two! You're back as well!" Leaving Vegito now in a different state of stun, as another type of love begins to overflow within him. "You haven't aged a day! I've missed you!" Causing the once hardened heart Vegito to scream out in happiness towards his wives. "What are you doing all the way over there? Come here!" Instantly then shifting to run towards his partners without any more caution whatsoever. But that happiness could only last so long for the tragic life of Ultra Vegito. What are you doing here? As suddenly and shockingly, behind the two women, three gods of destruction that should also be dead appear menacingly. "No! Belmont! Please! Rumshi!" And when zoomed in, along with the tearfully shocked Vegito, so too do the gods of destruction he named also appear. Each silent, but with a devious-looking smirk in place. Hakai! Until the unthinkable does happen, and the three gods shout out in tandem behind Vegito's two wives, the words meant to erase them forever. No! Stop! But as Vegito screams out at his worst nightmare traumatizing him once more, it's too late yet again, as both Chi-Chi and Bulma erase, with the latter just saying, "Vegito, why didn't you save me?" "Stand back, Dad, I got this!" But before Vegito can react in any more terror or sorrow, Gohan suddenly appears in front, confident just as he did 10 years ago, placing his arm out in front of Vegito as if protecting him, while the two younger Saiyans in the back yell, "No way, Gohan! We're joining in the fun too!" Just like that, without Vegito being able to say a word more, all three of his sons fly straight towards the three gods to somehow avenge their mother in place of Vegito. But their flight is interrupted when two more gods appear, Iwan and Mew, and with their hands outreached they too... Hakai! And just like their mothers before them, all three are then erased on the spot too. Hakai! 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 And one by one, the same story repeats itself as each of the Z fighters, Piccolo by Jin, Krillin by Liquor, Yamcha by Kitella, and Tien by Sidra, are all erased before the eyes of the stood still in shell shock Vegito. You! I won't let you get away with this! As finally, in a true unleashing of all of Vegito's pent-up rage, anger and inner thoughts exploding out, his face almost becomes beastly in the process, and his entire body shoots forth unimaginable power, cloaked in thicker than normal black lightning, while every blood vessel within his body expands. And as Vegito reaches his very limit in power release, even losing himself to it, as his pupils disappear, his body becomes a ridiculously bright shining light that even shocks the gods themselves as they all become enveloped in it, and most likely die from just the intensity of its radiance itself. And in that flash of light, everything is lost, including Vegito. But once we see Vegito again, his eyes remain gone, and from his mouth, drool drips down, as the God Killer seemingly remains in some sort of vegetative state. And when the scene finally shows everything, Vegito is revealed to be back where he was at the start when he first fought Madara, but just frozen in time, not even moving in the slightest. and behind the vegetative state godkiller, laughing with amusement, behind him is of course Madara, sat down nonchalantly on a rock behind as he comments as if speaking to someone else. "I told you fools, he's been standing like that for over an hour now. This is the power of the eyes of Azuna. He'll be locked in an infinite nightmare now, with no escape for the rest of his days. In this state, regardless of that hideous form, he is as weak as any mortal out there. Do as you please with him, but just know, the Grand Priest wanted him back alive." And to all our surprise, standing there before Vegito, right in front of him, are the two remaining gods of destruction, Iwan and Mule, with Mule from within his giant armored machine, saying with a giggle, "Alive," he said. What do you say, Iwan? Does that really sound like a good idea after all this dirt has done? All the fellow gods he's killed? No. I think it's high time to...